Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. You're watching another edition of Break the Fake, where we debunk fake news and combat false narratives. I'm your host, Spencer Lee, and let's get rolling. Today we begin with Russian recruitment ads, where the stakes seems just as inflated as Moscow's military claims. Let's take a look at the new and improved death benefits for Russian soldiers, because who wouldn't want to risk it all for a slightly higher paycheck?
Да, совершенно верно. С 1 августа этого года президентом была увеличена единовременная выплата для участников специальной военной операции. Она составляет сейчас 400 тысяч рублей. Чтобы ее получить, достаточно прибыть в воинскую часть и написать рапорт о выплате данной выплаты единовременной по указу президента. Мы предлагаем каждому гражданину уже написать это заранее, на пункте отбора после того, как он убывает в воинскую часть, чтобы уже просто этот рапорт отдать командиру воинской части.
А какие вообще выплаты, когда там находится в зоне спецоперации боец, вообще получает и за что?
Но помимо единовременной выплаты у нас предусмотрено повышенное денежное довольствие. В зоне проведения специальной военной операции эта выплата предусматривает от 210 тысяч рублей. Плюс к этому есть различного рода другие надбавки, в том числе премиальные за уничтожение техники противника. Она составляет от 50 и до миллиона рублей. Также у нас предусмотрены дополнительные выплаты при награждении государственных и ведомственных наград. Например, при награждении государственной награды у нас предусмотрена выплата в размере 5 окладов от денежного удовольствия.
So here's the deal. Russia has cranked up their compensation for enlisting in the military. Previously, if you sign up, they toss you a meager $1,800. But now, hold on to your vodka, because they're offering a whooping $6,500. That's 3.6 times what it was last December. I guess inflation hits harder when you're trying to buy royalty. But it gets better. If you're in Moscow, you could bag up to $20,000. That's almost like winning the lottery, except the prize is potentially getting a front row seat to a conflict zone. And in some regions, the new bonus doesn't even reach the bare minimum suggested by dear leader Putin, because consistency is key unless we're talking about Russian policy. And remember, folks, while these payments might seem tempting, always read the fine print, especially when the contract involves more than just your usual working place hazards. And in tonight's episode of Putin's Pep Talks, our new series where the Russian president tries to motivate his troops not by offering actual strategies or safety, but with a heavy dose of verbal gymnastics. So Putin met with volunteers heading to the front lines, and he said it's one thing to shoot in the range and quite another to expose your life and health to danger. Insightful, he should add, and it's another entirely to send others to do so while staying comfortably back at the Kremlin. He continued waxing poetic about how these men are the real MVPs because they did not spare themselves for the sake of their motherland. Translation? Thanks for making this choice because, let's be honest, we're running out of options.
В разные времена, даже в самые сложные, находились такие люди, как вы, которые не жалели себя ради своей Родины и ради будущего нашего народа. И очень приятно, что мы еще раз с вами встречаемся. Вы принимаете для себя сложные решения. Одно дело здесь в тире стрелять, а другое дело подвергать свою жизнь и здоровье опасности. Но у вас есть внутренняя потребность защищать Отечество и мужество принять такое решение. Если вы приняли такое решение, то вы уже победили. Вы переступили определенный рубеж. Я вот с этим хочу вас поздравить, хочу вас поблагодарить за решение подобного рода. И от всего сердца хочу пожелать вам удачи. И пока у нас есть такие мужчины, как вы, мы точно, совершенно, абсолютно непобедимы. Я желаю вам удачи.
And then the kicker, with Putin saying, if you've made this decision, you've already won. Won what exactly? A one-way ticket to the war zone with high stakes and questionable exit strategies? Comrades are wrapped up with, as long as we have men like you, we are absolutely invincible. which is both a motivational statement and a fantastic way to ignore the complexity of modern warfare and international politics. Now, let's dive into another story that sounds like it could come straight from a dystopian novel, but no, it's just another day in Russia. Moscow is building a village of heroes for the families of soldiers who died in Ukraine. Poetically named Rodina, or Motherland, the facility will house the families of the fallen, providing them with land for housing, and guess what? The streets will be named after the deceased soldiers. Nothing says we care quite like turning a personal tragedy into a street sign. Local entrepreneur Andrei Chernov is giving away the land, which is very noble, right? But let's not forget, this is the same Russia that sends these men to die in a conflict many of them didn't even sign up for. So now they're offering a real estate solution to the messy problem of war casualties. A charity called Special Childhood is handling the fundraising for the construction work, and the timeline for when these families can move in? Unclear. Because nothing says we've got your back like vague promises in a potentially never-ending construction project. So here's to Rodina, where the streets have no joy, but at least, hey, they got a name. And now another Russian twist with traditional values apparently framed as the new superhero cape against monkeypox. Yep, you heard that right. Anna Popova, the head of Russia's health watchdog, confidently claims that monkeypox poses no epidemic threat to Russia thanks to the country's traditional values. Interesting assertion, but perhaps those values should focus on fixing economic sanctions or low oil prices before tackling disease control. Popova argues that because of the specific transmission routes of monkeypox, she's absolutely sure that in Russia, with its traditional values, this disease isn't a threat.
Для России в целом это не представляет никакой опасности. У нас есть все для того, чтобы выявить заболевание. У нас отличная тест-система, которая хорошо работает, и это уже проверено. А за весь прошедший период у нас было 3 случая завозной оспы, которую мы своевременно выявили и не допустили никакого распространения. Учитывая особенности путей распространения оспы обезьян, я абсолютно уверена, что в Российской Федерации с ее традиционными ценностями это заболевание, как заболевание эпидемическое, не опасно, не страшно. Распространения мы не предполагаем, и его не будет.
Well, this statement seems less about medical science and more about political messaging. But what exactly are these traditional values? Well, Vladimir Putin has long styled Russia as the defender of Christian and traditional values, often portraying the West as morally corrupt. However, the reality is far less virtuous. Despite its self-proclaimed moral high ground, Russia has one of the highest abortion rates in the world, hardly consistent with pro-family, pro-life values. Furthermore, while preaching about freedom and morality, the Russian government systematically denies its citizens basic rights like freedom of speech and press, which, last I checked, aren't exactly the marks of a society rooted in traditional values, but rather of a regime using these values as a smokescreen. Putin's vision of traditional values appears less about moral principles and more about consolidating power and appealing to conservative audiences, both at home and abroad. The Kremlin's true aim is to legitimize its regime and influence sympathetic groups outside of Russia by using traditional value as convenient propaganda. So, when Russia's leader claimed their traditional values protect them from monkeypox or anything else, it is worth questioning how genuine these values really are. Just because Russia enforces stringent laws against the LGBT community doesn't really make it a bastion of traditional values. In reality, it's a regime steeped in hypocrisy, using moral rhetoric as a tool for manipulation. And with that, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to Team Up Your World.